Hi, Hamish Conway here, and welcome to another episode of Tacos Tuesday, episode 73. And this is the place for the best Amazon ads, tactics, and strategies to help you grow your sales on Amazon. And with me again today is the famous Sebastian Hargraves.
Don't know about famous, but I'm wearing my lucky hat today. You can see she's a bit worn, but very, very lucky. This hat, so yeah.
Excellent. So so today's episode is going to be the first of a three-part series and around the three phases of customer analytics with AMC. Now, why we're digging into this here is because this is really a big move that's going to happen this year for smart brands who will be winning playing by a completely different set of rules than the other brands. It's almost like they'll be in secret winning and people won't know why, but we're kind of telling you this is why, and if you want to be part of it, then this is how. Australia is massively behind on the uptake of AMC. Do you want to maybe talk to that point, Seb?
Yeah, Amazon have identified it as one of their growth marketplaces or countries, kind of talking about all of those aspects, how much further AU still has to go, because AMC is a lot more about getting a lot more sophisticated.
Yeah, and a key part of this shift is around this low uptake in AMC and even in DSP. And a lot of that reason has been because the ROI isn't as good on the face of it. So that's one part. And also many brands have just still haven't hit a point of diminishing returns on sponsored product and sponsored brand and sponsored display. But that is now starting to shift as the channel matures more and more. So there is a big push in this kind of mid and upper funnel for really performance-based brands who really want to go to the next level. This is the vehicle to do it. And a key part of that is just because of the analytics that you get. And this is when we say playing by a different set of rules. What we're going to share over these next 3 episodes is what the set of rules that you want to be playing by actually are, and not dealing with vanity metrics or just metrics that it's not just about ROAS. If you're looking at that, that's like kind of level 1 of the game, but smart brands are playing at level 4, and we'll kind of talk through all of those. So that's kind of the setting the scene. So we've got 3 phases, 3 parts that we're going to be running through. I'll just share my screen for those who are watching, but if you're not, if you're just listening, it's perfectly fine. Right. So Seb, do you want to just talk to these 3 phases of the AMC journey, and then we'll loop back around and focus on phase 1.
Yep. So stage 1 or phase 1 of the analysis. So first off, just defining AMC. So AMC is just a data clean room. It doesn't share individual customer information or data, but it aggregates it all up and allows us to kind of slice and dice it, so to speak, to have a look at how to use it. The 3 buckets that or phases that we're going to look at are going to be revenue and customer analytics. This is the highest level of using AMC. Basically, this is just like very broad questions like monthly revenue, how many unique customers have I got for each month, what's their purchase frequency, do they engage with subscribe and save, so questions like that. The second one will be customer lifetime value. That's where we start to validate the audience a little bit further. So we start at the top level, stage 1, and we say, okay, how many of them are there? What buckets are they in? What's their shopping behavior like? The second one, first phase, customer lifetime value, is where we start to validate that customer base and say, okay, how valuable actually are they? And so we look at cohort lifetime value analysis, cross-selling paths. So do they buy multiple products after they buy one of our products? What products are they that they go and buy after they buy our first product? How long does it take them to buy our first product, then our second product? And that'll obviously start to inform some of our strategy there as well. And then the last, or the phase 3, will be attribution and acquisition, where we start to look at how of all those customers, how many of them are coming from organic versus paid? What's the full funnel attribution look like? And this is Hamish talking about playing at level 4 versus level 1. Level 1 is you look at your sponsored product report and say, my ROAS is this, and I'm attributing all my sales to what they call a last click attribution. Level 4 is looking, what's my full funnel attribution? How many touch points was required to get that customer over the line? What does the ROAS look like on that? And that's how you escape the rat race, so to speak, with it. Then we've got like organic versus paid, new to brand versus repeat, first touch attribution, and path to purchase. So a few concepts we'll go into in more depth. But today, obviously, as Hamish said, we'll start on phase 1.
Okay, excellent. So with as we look at then, so we're looking at revenue and customer analytics, and the point here is more about, well, what are the strategic questions that we want to be asking for this. So yeah, Seb, what are the key strategic questions there as we're looking at the phase one revenue and customer analytics?
Yep. So pretty straightforward. These ones are going to be not revolutionary, but is our unique customer base growing, and is that growth sustainable? That's going to be the first question. Some of these questions will require more analysis than what you're going to get from this first stage, which is why there's kind of additional stages. You kind of, you're unraveling it as you go down.
So Seb, even just a kind of a basic question here. Can you, as we go through, look, if you're a third party seller, you can already get this information, or it's difficult, but you can get it? Or if you're a vendor, can you get it, or is it difficult, or do you need AMC? So if you maybe just clarify that as we're going.
Yeah, so unique customers you can get from the third party, but for 1P sellers or vendor sellers, you can't get a unique customer base. I don't believe you can anyway, from what I've seen. Yeah, so moving to the second question, which is revenue growth driven by more customers or higher value per customer? This one's a really important one. Sometimes your strategy is to acquire as many customers as possible. Think like, Prime deals on, I'm offering big discounts and I'm bringing in as many unique customers as I possibly can. And the hope is that those will turn into repeat customers. That's a volume play, but that's not the only strategy that you can deploy, right? The other strategy is, well, maybe I don't want to go for the volume play. Maybe I just want to increase the value that I get out of my current customer base. And that would be looking at, where do I get the most value out of my customers currently? And can I get more of those customers?
Right. And so, how does this play into, well, we'll probably get to it in terms of deal events, etc., and that initial acquisition. But yeah, continue on.
Cool. Yep. So the last strategic question we have here is, are we buying growth at the expense of our order value? So in this first analysis, we're basically tracking order value and mapping that against, our unique customers and our revenue growth and stuff like that. And that kind of tells us the story of, are we just using price as a main lever to grow our customer base? And because that obviously is only sustainable for so long until you get to the bottom. And you can't use that anymore. So that's helpful to understand the trajectory of the business, and to understand if, let's say, you've had really strong growth over a 2-year period, but month on month you've continued to see a decline in your average order value. You cannot keep doing that and sustain that. Eventually you're going to hit the bottom. And so the volume play there will plateau at some point as you do that.
So this is kind of the game, and from acquiring new customers, like there's deal events, be it Prime Day or the Black Friday deals week there, where price is a key driver and can increase a lot of new to brand customers. So it's just, and then the intention is that for certain products, like consumer products there where there's repeat purchase, that you'll have a new higher baseline that comes from that acquisition. And we've seen that with clients, but so sometimes that strategy of lower price to win customers, you've got a higher base when the average order value goes up, but it is one that you have to keep an eye on, because to Seb's point, the line can't keep on going down and to the right.
Yes. Yep, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is a strategy. I mean, if you keep introducing new products, technically you probably could keep doing that. Your average order value would flatten out, but you could technically keep driving that volume piece if you keep bringing out new products. But it would get harder and harder probably as you did that.
But even just knowing your unique number of customers is really valuable. And many companies just aren't even doing that. So we're kind of just building the levels here. And then what about purchase frequency?
Yep.
What are the questions here?
Yeah, so the strategic questions here is...
Well, maybe just back up the truck and define purchase frequency.
Yeah, so this is how many times your customers buy from you. So the way we do it is group our customers into buyer groups or buckets. How many ordered 1 unit, how many ordered 2 units, how many ordered 3 to 5, 5 to 10, et cetera, and kind of grouping it like that. So the strategic questions here, again, fairly basic, but it's like, what percentage of our customers are single order versus repeat buyers? And that's That's super important, obviously, to understand. The slide before, we're understanding if we're acquiring unique customers. This slide is more about how many of those unique customers are actually turning into, repeat buyers. What's the quality score of those unique customers?
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. I mean, out of interest, what do you notice when you are looking at clients, percentage of first-time customers versus repeat purchase? What are you seeing?
Yeah, it's interesting. So we've noticed after doing a few of these that the 3 to 5 order bucket range, it has a disproportionate amount of revenue compared to how many customers are in that bucket compared to other groupings.
Yeah.
And I'm going to touch on this on the final question there, but the value of those customers that end up in that 3 to 5 range is much, much greater. And we think that's purely because those customers more fit in the bucket of like a brand groupie,
Loyal,
so to speak. Yeah, they're very loyal to the brand compared to even a 2 purchase customer, like still warming up to the brand. We think compared to that 3 to 5.
Okay. And what other strategic questions here? I guess looking at the second and third options there.
Yep. So how much revenue is generated by repeat customers versus single order? So we already touched on this, but that's the revenue piece, right? So the first question is the customer size. The second one is the revenue size. The last one is does a customer's value expand versus as the order frequency increases? So that one's really about understanding where's the biggest leverage points. Is it from 1 to 2 orders, or is it from 2 to 3, or is it from 3 or 4 or 5 to 8, or what's the maximum kind of leverage range? And a little bit the same as what we said on the revenue piece. And it probably stands to reason, right, that the highest revenue bucket is going to generally be your leverage. But we've noticed that 3 to 5 order range is like 4x what a single order is worth. Compare that to even the 2 order bucket or 3 order bucket, which it's not as exponential as that sort of 3 to 5 order range.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, say, if new one-time buyers is like 60%, to keep the numbers round, but that revenue on average, from some things we're looking at, was only a third off the total revenue, just to kind of show this disproportionate fact. And then the 3 to 5 grouping maybe being like 23% of clients, but generating like nearly 50% of the revenue. So, so then why is this useful? It then starts to go, well, how do we get more people from 2 to 3 to 5, or even from 1 to 2 to 3 to 5? And as we go through this series here, we're going to be talking about how to move people along. But this is like the initial level of even knowing these numbers. And many brands don't know these numbers or what buckets people are in. And that alone is really interesting. Then another part kind of linked to this here, not for every brand, but there is subscribe and save. So talk to me about, subscribe and save, and, what are the strategic questions we're looking to answer.
Yeah, so some people might think like, didn't you cover repeat? Isn't subscribe and save the same as repeat? And it's not. And the reason is for a bunch of things, but part of it is because not everyone that's a repeat purchase will go into subscribe and save. Some people just hate subscriptions and they'll just never do the subscription model. So they'll always just come back and repeat purchase from you. So this does answer a slightly different group of people. A different kind of group. So, but some of the strategic questions that come out of this was, what percentage of your overall revenue is driven by subscribe and save? And is that contribution increasing over time? Now, that just goes along with some of the things we've mentioned already. If we can get people to 3 to 5 orders, we know that the lifetime value on that customer is like 4x, as an example. So we want this to be continuing to grow over time. If we're putting in a lot of unique customers in the door, and they're hanging around and turning into subscribe and save customers, and that's increasing over time, then we have a model that can continue to build and scale and improve over time.
And then from an advertising point of view, we are starting to go, having creatives that point towards subscribe and save, or other initiatives there to have that be a key outcome of the advertising, and or content on the site there as well to encourage subscribe and save.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of actions that you can actually take. And most of our data is trying to be like that. At the end of when we've done this 3-part series, there'll be this kind of big summary where we'll bring it all together in regards to all the things that we can do with everything we've learned along the way. But yeah, all of the data should be, okay, great, but what can I do with it? And so, yeah, that's just a good point.
Excellent.
Second one is the share of total unit volume. This is exactly the same as revenue, but the only difference is we're just looking at units. Just sometimes the revenue can be deceiving if you're only looking at the revenue part, particularly if you've got a declining average order value as well. So you want to make sure that, an increasing average order value, you can think that your total revenue is increasing on the subscribe and save, but it might just be that you're getting more out of each customer. We want both. We want more value out of them, but also unit growth as well.
That's right. More people on subscribe and save and a higher average order value. Okay, and then the last one there.
So the last piece here is where you start to get a little bit more granular here, and we break it down by product. So up to this point, we're kind of looking at account level pieces. This is the first one where we would start to go and basically benchmark your products against each other. How do your products subscribe and save penetration compared to your broader portfolio? And you can start to make plans that are a bit more strategic rather than account level, kind of less kind of specific initiatives.
And that could include, where you're from an advertising point of view, understanding the target ACOS for certain products, and we've been through that in other episodes, and then what kind of focus and attention you're going to put on products that are working better to drive overall subscribe and save.
Yes, once we get towards the end here, where we're talking about path to purchase and gateway ASINs and all that kind of stuff, we can start to formulate we might be able to pay a lot more for specific products from an advertising point of view than we actually think, which is why sometimes that ROAS number, like Hamish mentioned at the start, can be very deceiving if it's the only thing that you're looking at and paying attention to. It's level 1.
Excellent. Okay, so I think that's in terms of episode 1, without overcomplicating things. We'll keep them into nice bite-sized pieces there. So that is our phase 1, where we've been looking at revenue and customer analytics, getting that monthly revenue and your unique customer count, looking at the average order value, increasing, decreasing, purchase frequency, and putting people into those buckets and just the value of those frequency buckets as well. And then subscribe and save, close but slightly different by its nature of people, not everyone wanting subscribe and save. So anything there to sum up, Seb?
You did a good job. I haven't mentioned this to you, so this will be live on the podcast, but I think maybe what we could do is if this is something that interests people, we're doing this in a way that we could do this for people's accounts, where we could look at this for you guys. So, if it's something that's interested to you, that you want to know, that could help inform your strategy, we're building something that could do that, kind of like an AMC audit, you could call it. And so, that could be something that's worthwhile if people are interested.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, this is really like the initial foundation piece to start to make better decisions with your advertising. If you know this information, then it's essential to know this information before you can take your advertising to the next level. And it's not easily accessible, particularly for those on vendor. So excellent. All right, Seb. Well, thank you. And thanks for tuning in as well. And make sure you tune back in next week for the customer lifetime value component, and which is really a part 2 of the three parts of customer analytics with AMC. Excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All the best.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.